Okay, so that's queries for now. We're going to move on to doing table joins. So one of the things that makes databases so powerful is that first of all the data is stored in its like places, where like with like, are one-to-one type things where each table has data that makes sense with that table. But there are times when you need to pull data from multiple tables to get the result output that you're looking for, and you need to use joins in that case. So I can create any number of joins. This is kind of a deep topic, but we're only going to touch it lightly. But in this database that we're messing with here, there's an account table and an account manager table, and there's a perfect join between the two tables on the account manager number. So you can see right now we're looking. I'm going to get rid of this, close this query here. Right now we're looking at the account table, and you can see there's an account manager number listed here. If I then open the account manager table, there's an account manager number here as well. So each one of these accounts, except for a select few, I'm just going to throw some numbers in here. Oops. Just so we get a full output. Each one of these accounts has an account manager associated with it, and I can pull together these two tables in a query so that I can see information about the account as well as information about the account manager. And to do that, I have to create the join. So I'm going to go into the query design view, and I'm going to put two tables in this time, and then I'm going to add the desired tables to the query, and I need to create the join if it doesn't do it for me automatically. So I'm going to create a new query design, and this time I'm going to put both the account and the account manager field in there, or table in there. And you can see actually that it did it for me automatically. I'm going to try to get these boxes. There we go. Oh, there we go. And this one as well. You can see there's a line between the two tables pointing to account manager number. So Microsoft Access figured out that the account manager number field in both tables was the same piece of information that can be used to link the tables, to join the tables. So now I have a way to connect the records across. So if I put in account name and state from the account table, for instance, and then put in first name and last name of the account manager, I can now end up with it twice. I can now run this and see an output that doesn't exist on any specific table. This only exists in this query result. So I've got account name and state are from the account table. I've got account manager first name and account manager last name from the account manager table, but I can create a very specific view to answer a very specific question using queries with joined tables. Okay, so that's that part of that. I can create reports directly from my queries. So I'm going to show you a query that I can create here, a report from a query that I've already created in a different database instance. I was having some issues with my previous one. So database here, this is the query I've created. It's just account name from the account table, and then last name and first name for the account manager from the account manager table. So I want to create a report from this using the report wizard. I need to go to create, report wizard, choose the fields that I want to include. You can see it's already pre-selected query 1 because that was the query I currently had open. If I hit all the way over with the double arrow, it moves everything to the right. I can put some grouping on this if I want to. In this case, I don't really need to do that because I'm just listing counts. I can sort this data if I'd like to in my report just by choosing a sort order here or multiple levels of sort. I'm not going to do any of that with this one. I can choose different types of reports. You can see if I choose a different layout, you can see it changes kind of like that little preview window there to give an idea what that means. I can also make it portrait versus landscape if I want to. And then I can name my report. In this case, I'll just put the word report on it and go ahead and preview the report and hit finish. So now you can see I've got this report run directly off of my query. So if you had a query that showed something that you wanted to keep a snapshot of or a point in time view of, you could create a report off of that query, and then you would have this available for you to save or print or turn into a PDF or whatever you want to do with it. I can also create forms from my queries. So we've done forms before where we create a form from a table, but you can actually create a form from a query that would allow you to create an editable view of your data across tables. So if you had a specific set of data that you needed someone to be able to view and be able to edit, like a data entry type person, you could create a query that has all of the data that you want to be editable, and then you could create a form off of that for that person to utilize. So I'm going to just go ahead and create a form off of my query. So I'm going to get rid of my query report. I'm back to my same query from before. Let me get rid of this. And now I'm going to create a form from this. So I just go to create form. And while this is a very simple form here, you can see that I've got information from both of my different tables there, allowing me to edit both tables simultaneously. Now I can't actually edit this until after I save the view, but I would be able to edit this data. Continuing on, we've previously imported data from Excel into Microsoft Access. We can do the opposite of that too. If you have a table that has some information that you want to be able to share with someone that isn't familiar with Microsoft Access or doesn't have the tool, you could export it into Microsoft Excel, which would allow you to share it with those people. So I'm just going to create an export of my account table. So here's my table that I want to export. I'm going to go to external data. And previously we'd done this one where it showed a picture of Microsoft Excel going into an Access database. We can do the opposite of that here with this one that looks like an Access database table with an arrow towards Microsoft Excel. So if I click on that, I can go through this wizard, which would allow me to, so stepping through this wizard, the first option I need to go through here is the file name that I want to, I'm going to put in whatever the file name is of the Access or Excel database, Excel spreadsheet that I want to create. I can just leave that as what it is because it's just giving it the name of the table with an Excel extension. I can choose the format. Default is just a standard Excel workbook. And I could export the formatting and layout if I want to, but I don't really need to. I can hit OK. And if I had something that I needed to repeatedly export, I could save these export steps so that I could just rerun it. If you had like a table that was being updated weekly or something like that, and you wanted to just create an export of it every week, you would have the steps set up for you so you could very quickly export it. But in this case, I don't need to do that. I can hit close, and then it will export my database table into an Excel spreadsheet. So that's pretty straightforward. Continuing on, we've already talked about restricting records on a query. This is the same thing. There's not really anything more to show here. It's just even though I have a join query where I have multiple tables involved, I can use the same kind of criteria with ands and ors across the two tables. So I don't really have to demonstrate anything there. It's the same as what we did before, except that it is a joined table query. I can also use calculated fields in queries. This can be useful at times if you have a piece of data that maybe you don't normally need on your table or any of your tables. However, at the point of the query, you do require that kind of mathematical output. You can just put it in the context of your query so that you don't have to have it in a table taking up space. So I can create a calculated field in here. It's a little bit weird in this case. I'm going to go back to, I don't need this form. I'm going to go back to my query here that I've been working with. I'm going to go ahead and put it back into design view. And then I'm going to go to the first empty field here. And let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to just, I'm going to do amount paid divided by current due, just so I have some kind of mathematical thing here. I just have to go to the first empty field, choose right click, and then choose zoom, which is this option here, which I don't know why it's called zoom, but that's what they call it. And this is not as convenient as the one we did with Microsoft Access, where we were creating calculated fields in our Excel spreadsheets. However, it's a similar structure. So if I want to create a field that is amount paid divided by current due, I can just do it like that, hit OK. Now I have a new field that is only in my query. This math is done nowhere in my database. It just lives within my query. Of course, I've got a bunch of fields that have weird numbers because they're decimal places. I have a couple that are divided by 0 because maybe the amount due is 0, so then a divide by 0 situation happens. Some that is amount paid is 0, so then anyway, so it's mathematically determining this piece of information for me. So that's a calculated field in my query. I could also change the caption on that so that it looks like something better than expression 1. I'm going to go take my query back into design view again. I'm going to click on this field, and over here on the right in the property sheet, you can see that caption is one of the options. If I go into caption, I could just say paid overdue, something like that, just say it's a mathematical thing. Now when I rerun this query, now when I run this, you can see that instead of saying expression 1, it says paid. So a little bit better of a label than just expression 1. So that's what caption gives you. I can also calculate statistics in my queries. So what you're normally seeing so far is it just looks like a table, but you can do a little bit more with that by using totals in your query. I'm just going to go with this same query that I've been messing around with. I'm going to put it back into design view. I'm going to get rid of my calculated field because I don't need it anymore. And I'm just going to add the current due field down here. And now I can create totals on that field if I want to. To do that, all I need to do is click on the field that I want to have totals on, and then go up to this totals button, which looks like a summation button. And when I now run this, I'm going to have, you see that I now have a total section. I can do a total on, I can do a sum on current due. And then when I run this, you're going to see that I have a sum field of current due. Now this doesn't really give me much in this case because there's only one piece of data there. Can I show that a little bit better? I have to do a group by on, let's say group by, I'm going to do a sum on a last name of account manager. So let me get rid of this. So now if I do this, I fail horribly. All right, let's back up a little bit. Let me get rid of this. I'm just going to go with one table, and I've got account name. I'm going to add state. Let's do this. I'm going to group by state and sum up current due. because I had a field in my query that didn't have any kind of grouping. So what that meant is every row had a unique value because I was using the account field, the account name field. Once I take that out, now I can do grouping. So I can say on the state field, which we only have two states in this data, Illinois and Indiana, I can group by state, so that means it'll roll them all up to just two lines, one for Illinois and one for Indiana, and then I can sum the current due field. So what essentially I'm doing here is I'm going to run a query that shows a total of current due by state. So when I run this, you're going to see I just get two lines. I get all of Illinois grouped as one with a sum, and I get all of Indiana grouped with a sum. So that's how you do calculation that way. I can also use query with the where criteria. So if I go back to this in design view, you can see I can say group by state. Let's say where, let's see, I'll throw an account manager number. Here, 58. Now it's not super obvious, but what I've done here is I have added in the account manager number, and I'm only looking at account manager number 58, which is one of the numbers for one of the account managers. So what I've done here is using the where clause, I've said group by state, and then only return records where account manager is 58, and then sum the current due. So you saw that I got a smaller data set result, smaller number of current due, because I've limited it to just a single account manager. So that's what the where clause does for you. Okay, continuing on, I can create what's called a crosstab query. These can sometimes throw people off. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. Instead of just seeing a table result, it allows you to cross two sets of data and get an output. It's kind of somewhat similar to what we did with pivot tables, where you don't actually take the data and just spit it out. You look at it in a different way to create a view that is unique to the query. So I'm going to use the crosstab query wizard for this. So to do that, I'm going to go to create query wizard. And once I go into the query wizard, you can see I have crosstab query wizard. And then I just got to step through this carefully. So I'm looking to pay attention to what I have going across and what I have going down the left. I'm just going to go with which table or query contains the fields you want the crosstab. I'm going to do it on the account table. And then going across the top, I'm going to do state. So or I'm sorry, on the left edge, I'm going to do state. You can see it gives you a preview. It says state 1, state 2, state 3, state 4. Okay, that's good. And then what do I want in my column? I'm going to say postal code. And then, so now you can see it says postal code 1, 2, and 3. And then it says, what number do you want calculated? So I want to do the current due, and I want to do a sum of the current due. So that's the data in the box. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying by state and postal code, give me the current due. Hit next. I can give it a name if I want, hit finish, and now I get an output. Maybe not super useful, but you can see here that the first row is Illinois, and then all of the different zip codes that have an Illinois state, so 46004, 60311, et cetera, that's the current due for those zip codes. Same thing for Indiana, and then it throws a totaling column in here to give the total of the entire state. So there are times when you want to look at your data in that kind of format. In a lot of cases, you'd be better off just exporting it into Excel and doing it there because it's got a more powerful engine for that, but some of that is available in Access. Okay, that's everything I have for this week. I do want to give you a bit of a heads up. As you go through the textbook project this week, you're going to find that they're going to have you create like a dozen queries. You just need to be very careful, because what they're going to do is sometimes they will ask you to open your existing query, make some changes to it, and then save it with a new name. If you just save it, you're going to lose your original query. So what you need to make sure you do is, after you edit your query, like let's say this is a query that I've edited, you can't hit the disk box. You got to go to File, Save As, and then Save Object As, and then Save As again, and then I can give it a new query name. So that's how you have to do it. So you just have to be very careful, because it gets everybody at one point or another, because you end up with, I think, 12 queries, and it's like M01Q01, M02Q02. So they're very similar, and you end up with a whole bunch of them. So just be very cognizant about that as you're working through it. And other than that, as always, if you have questions for me, just let me know. I'll do what I can to help.